Hello, my wonderfully drowsy time travelers, my fellow lovers of slow-moving history and stories that melt your mind into dreams. Before we begin our journey to the distant past, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If these sleepy stories help you drift off, consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us create more content to lull restless minds to sleep. And if you're feeling extra cozy, leave us a comment. Tell us how long you lasted before dozing off. We love reading your experiences. Now, find your most comfortable position. Let your eyelids grow heavy and allow my voice to guide you into relaxation. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast, untouched wilderness. The dawn is soft. A pale, golden mist floats just above the earth. The air is cool and still. You hear the distant call of birds, the crunch of dry leaves beneath your feet, the rustle of trees swaying gently in a sleepy breeze. But this is no ordinary morning, and this is no ordinary land. We are traveling far beyond your cozy bed, into the world of the Roman legions, not the Rome of polished marble or grand speeches in the Senate, but the Rome of muddy roads and heavy packs, the Rome of marching feet and tired eyes beneath iron helmets. We're here to uncover something simple and strangely fascinating. What did Roman soldiers eat on campaign? Not in Rome cities, not in their countryside villas, but here in the wind-blown, faraway lands, in the forests of Gaul, the mountains of Thrace, the deserts of Numidia, out where the empire's shadow reached far, but the comforts of home did not. Let's begin at the edge of a trail, long and winding, dusty with time. You wait to the muted clatter of gear, the soft clink of metal buckles, and the distant voices of men preparing for another long march. You are hungry, not the kind of hunger that whines quietly in your belly, but the slow, aching kind, the kind that gnaws at your ribs and makes you think only of food and where it might come from. But you have no pouch of coins, no inn to welcome you, only a fire faintly smoldering, only a satchel of rations, simple, rough, and ancient. You untie it slowly, and inside there is hard bread, not soft, not warm, but dense like stone, type of biscuit called buccellatum, and baked until nearly all moisture was gone, hard enough to last weeks, months even, but impossible to eat without help. You pour water over it, letting it soak, waiting, watching the steam rise gently from the cloth-wrapped bowl. No spices, no flavors, just the earthy scent of soaked grain. Beside it, a handful of dried legumes, fava beans, lentils, cold, rough in texture, boiled yesterday, now stiff with time, you chew slowly, each bite a quiet echo, grains crunching faintly beneath your teeth. The bread, still dense, but edible now, softened just enough to swallow. This is breakfast. There is no choice, no menu, no sweetness to savor, only fuel for your aching limbs, for the next day's march, and water, if you are lucky, cool and fresh, carried in heavy skins, sloshing against your back. But water was not always kind. Sometimes it brought illness from shallow streams or stagnant pools. The soldiers knew. They boiled it when they could, or mixed it with vinegar, a sour, biting blend called posca, not pleasant, but safer and strangely refreshing in the heat. You sip it now. The vinegar stings your tongue, but wakes you just enough. By midday, there will be more. Another small pouch, this one with salted meat, tough, fibrous, preserved in brine or smoked over coals days ago. It smells sharp, but savory, but not fresh. You chew it with patience, tearing it slowly, letting the salt fill your mouth. Sometimes there were onions or garlic, strong flavors, pungent, overwhelming, but welcomed. They helped mask the taste of age and lifted the spirit in ways warm meals could not. Other times you foraged wild fruits, if they could be found, berries, figs, nuts beneath the trees, but not always safe, not always ripe. Some were bitter, some poisonous, and in strange lands, far from home. Even the plants could not be trusted. Still, hunger whispered, and soldiers listened. They risked the bite of unfamiliar roots, the sting of wild herbs. In desperate moments, even animals, small ones, rabbits, birds, caught in silence, cooked over coals, shared in haste. Nourishment was never certain. It was a hope carried in pouches, wrapped in cloth, hidden in the folds of armor and weariness. And when the day ended and the sun dipped below the horizon, there was a fire again, faint, dot, gentle, flickering against canvas and stone. A pot, a stew, out, if supplies allowed. Crushed grains, water, salt, maybe a scrap of meat, or the last bean from the sack, boiled until soft, until the scent rose gently into the air and brought comfort, a quiet comfort, not joy, not pleasure, but enough to sleep, to endure, to continue. And so they did, night after night, meal after meal. The food of the Roman soldier was not feast, it was function. It did not delight, it sustained, and that was its only task. But in that simplicity. In that repetition lay a quiet strength, a strength that marched across continents, that crossed rivers and mountains, and etched its path into history. As you rest now, with that soft image lingering in your mind of a weary man by a lonely fire, dipping hard bread into vinegar water, you will begin to wonder, was that really all they ate? Were there no moments of indulgence, of celebration, no secret delicacies tucked away in packs, no local foods discovered along the way? Could it be that the diet of the Roman soldier was more than just survival? Perhaps there is more to uncover, but that, dear traveler, is a story for another night. So close your eyes, let the fire fade, and drift deeper into dreams. The night deepens, quiet settles across the worn, beaten camp. Only the distant hum of wind and the low creak of leather straps swaying on packed gear beneath sleeping forms. But as sleep touches the edges of thought, we return gently to the lingering question. Was it truly so dull, so bare, this diet of Roman soldiers? Perhaps not always, because when the march slowed, when the roads turned kind, and the commanders allowed pause, the food changed. There were times, brief ones, when the army neared towns, outposts, settlements loyal to Rome, or places newly conquered, places still trembling, but full of supplies, grain, livestock, wine. And in those moments, something shifted. The cook fires burned longer, the smells richer, heavier. A pot might hold more than just grains. It might bubble with chopped leeks, carrots dug from fertile earth, bits of pork belly, fat rendered and sweetened by fire. The stew thickened, darkened, the air filled with steam, savory, soothing, even joyful. For just a night, a soldier might eat well. There were olives, salty, oily, pressed and packed into clay jars. There was cheese, dry and crumbly, but rich, stored in waxed cloth, carefully portioned, and flat breads made fresh with flour, water, and a little oil, if luck allowed, cooked on hot stones, sizzling softly, edges curling as the scent of warm grain and smoke rose gently into the evening air. They dipped it into the stew, tore it apart slowly. It filled more than bellies. It softened the heart. And when rations from the home arrived, sent by ships, by mule caravans, or local markets, then came the rare delights, honey cakes, wrapped in cloth, crumbly, sweet and golden, nuts, shelled and dry, little pockets of comfort from distant trees, even dried figs, sticky, sun-drenched, their sweetness a whisper from home. But nothing brought more silence to a weary group of men than the arrival of wine, not the fine wine of aristocrats, but rough wine, dark, tart, stored in clay amphorae, with wax-sealed mouths, poured slowly into wooden cups, or mixed again with water, because strong drink was not the Roman way on the march. Wine was for cleansing, for hydrating, in a strange and bitter form, but it warmed the throat, softened the day, and in moments of victory or stillness between battles, it became something more, a ritual, a remembrance of lands left behind. Still, even with the best of what they could find, life on the march remained harsh. Food spoiled, rations ran thin. Fires failed to light in stormy winds, and soldiers knew hunger like a familiar ghost. They learned to carry what mattered, a small bundle of pulse, the thick porridge of the legions, crushed grains, cooked in water, stirred into a slow, gluey softness. Sometimes they added herbs, sometimes garlic or lard, but mostly it was plain, like silence in the dark, heavy, filling, and it followed them across every campaign, because pulse was more than food. It was tradition, discipline, Rome in a bowl. You could find it in the camps outside Romania, in the wild fields of Hispania, on the burning sands of Judea. One soldier, one fire, one pot of pulse, eaten slowly while the stars turned overhead. But porridge, that silent companion, bound them all. And as we listen now to the slow crackle of that ancient pot, we begin to sense a truth. The food of the Roman soldier was not meant to please. Oh, it was meant to endure, to march, to survive storms and time. But still, it leaves us wondering, who prepared these meals? What tools did they carry? How did entire armies feed themselves in the wilderness, without markets, without fires at every hour? How did they cook? In the rain? In snow? On rocky hillsides with no wood in sight? The answer lies in the gear they carry, in the cooking kits strapped to their packs, in the clever methods passed down through ranks, because behind every bite was a plan, a system, a quiet brilliance designed to feed an empire. And that, dear listener, is where we shall drift next. But for now, let your mind soften. Let the scent of warm porridge and smoky fires fade gently into your dreams. The fire dims, the pot is empty, and sleep once again claims the camp. The pot is empty now, but traces of warmth still cling to its sides, and the embers below flicker faintly, like memories not yet ready to fade. In the hush of night, we begin to see it more clearly. Quiet machinery behind every meal, feeding an army, was never simple. Not then, not ever. The Roman legions moved like a great beast, mile after mile, day after day. Through dust, through rain, through the crushing heat of foreign lands. And yet, they ate. They always ate, because Rome planned everything, even hunger. Each soldier carried his own world, not just weapons, not just armor, but a bundle of tools, small, worn, essential. There was a pan, iron or bronze, heavy in the hand, blackened by years of fire and soot. A pot, simple, tall, rounded, used for boiling grain, for stirring pulse, for catching rain. There were knives, not for battle, but for bread, for cheese, for slicing roots by firelight. And there were sticks, long, straight, shaved, smooth, used to turn meat above embers, to prop lids, to stir, to poke, to lift. These tools were tucked into satchels, tied with cord, wrapped in cloth, kept dry when possible, because out there, in wild places, these simple things meant survival. When wood was scarce, they used dung to fuel their fires, dried under the sun. It burned hot and left little scent. When time was short, they made fireless meals, soaked grain, cold beans, pounded garlic with oil and salt, eaten quickly, quietly, beneath gray skies. And when storms came, they huddled together, made windbreaks from shields, pitched tents low and tight, cooked near the earth, shielded flames with their cloaks, 'cause hunger did not wait for sunshine. It pressed in, always, and so they learned to make do, to improvise with flat stones, to bake bread with upturned helmets, to boil water with scooped out earth, to make ovens, crude and shallow, but warm. These tricks, these shared secrets, passed between soldiers, from veterans to the young, from lips worn dry by long marches, a whisper of wisdom in a world without comfort. Even their gear spoke of this design. The Sarcina, their marching pack, carried not just food, but the means to prepare it. A cloak, a blanket, a bowl, a water skin, some vinegar, a pouch of salt, and perhaps, wrapped tightly, a small lump of lard. Fair, precious, long-lasting, essential. It flavored, it fueled, it fed when all else failed. They had this, the bare bones of nourishment, and above all, they had discipline. Go here. the quiet, unshaken rhythm of men who did not question the cold or the taste of stale bread. They knew what was needed, and they did it, day after day, mile after mile, the same motions, the same meals, until it became part of them. The food, the tools, the methods, etched into muscle and memory. And when the day ended, when the tents rose in ordered rows, when the fire cracked softly in the center of camp, the smell of cooking, however humble, was a kind of music, a quiet song of survival, of shared hardship and strange peace. But it leads us deeper still, because while the legions carried food and knew how to prepare it, there were other hands, other voices that shaped how they ate. Local markets, civilian camp followers, supply lines stretching from Rome to the edge of the world, trade, bargain, tribute. Food was not always packed. Sometimes it was found, given, taken, and that shifts the story once more. Because what the Romans ate was not always Roman. It was foreign, strange, new to their tongues. In Gaul, they tasted fermented dairy, thick, sour. In Egypt, barley beer, flat and cloudy. In Britannia, oats, it cooked in milk. At times, they disliked it. At times, they craved it. But the food of the land became the food of the legion, adapted, absorbed, transformed. Roman discipline wrapped around local flavor. So what they ate was a map, dot, of the empire itself. Every bite, a blend of worlds. And in this mix, curious idea begins to form. Was food just fuel for conquest? Or was it quietly shaping the conquerors too, as if the empire didn't just feed the army, but the army was slowly being fed by the empire? One grain, one stew, one spice at a time. We'll return to that thought, but first, let us sink deeper still, because among all this effort, the planning, the tools, the borrowed foods, one question lingers like smoke in the air. What happened when it wasn't enough? When the roads failed? When supplies vanished? When the long arm of Rome could no longer reach them? What did Roman soldiers do when hunger truly struck? What were they willing to eat in the darkest hours? And how far could discipline stretch before desperation broke it? That is where we go next. But for now, let your breathing slow. Let the thoughts grow soft, like ashes falling through night. The fire dims once more, and the camp drifts gently into stillness. The camp is quiet now, blanketed in ash and silence, a stillness that comes only after long days and empty bowls. But not all nights were like this. Not all fires burned with enough warmth. Not all meals found their way into the pot. Because sometimes supplies did not come. The roads washed out, blocked by weather, or worse, by enemies. And in those moments, the food stopped. It didn't trickle. It vanished. Suddenly, entirely, and with it, the strength in marching legs, the calm in tired minds, the rhythm of Roman order. What did they do then when discipline met hunger? When the stomach growled louder than the horn of command? They waited. At first, they rationed what was left, cut portions in half, boiled water longer, ate slower, but hunger has a way of growing. It gnaws, it presses, it whispers strange things into quiet camps. The soldiers learned to forage, to search the earth for anything, leaves, roots, mushrooms, nuts fallen from brittle trees, but in foreign lands. But these things were unknown, and not everything green was kind. Some roots numbed the tongue, others brought fever, or worse, a wrong bite, a single stem, and a soldier might not rise with the morning horn. Still, they searched, they watched the locals, mimicked their harvests, plucked what birds pluck, ate what goats dared chew, and when even that failed, they turned to animals, not the grand feasts of roasted game, but the small ones, snails, grubs, beetles, eels pulled from slow rivers, frogs, if they could be caught, roasted on sticks, boiled if water was found, or swallowed whole in moments of true need. They chewed leather, traps from packs, boiled belt, taste of nothing, the hope of something, and still they endured, because Roman training was not just for war, it was for hardship, for hunger, for moments like this. But hunger has its limits, and in the deepest valleys of desperation, a darker truth emerges. History tells us of times when rations ran dry, for weeks, when sieges dragged on, when armies were trapped behind enemy lines, when the earth was frozen and nothing moved, not even the birds, and there, in the final edge of necessity, some soldiers turned to unthinkable things, dead animals, long rotted, pulled from snow or mud, scraped clean, boiled, if fire allowed, bones, crushed and ground to release the last trace of fat. And in the darkest chapters, yes, there are whispers, cannibalism, whispers, faint, death, uneasy, not shouted, not often written, but there, between the lines of trembling records. Ah, and the silence of mass graves. We do not dwell there, but we must acknowledge it, that even Rome, in all its greatness, could fall prey to hunger's shadow. Yet, most times, they found a way. Caravan arrived. A herd reached the camp. A nearby village surrendered grain, and life returned slowly, softly. Bread baked again, porridge stirred in warm pots. The fire no longer a memory, but a comfort. The men leaned back, closed their eyes, and breathed deeply. Not from fullness, but from the end of that long, gnawing silence. Food once again became more than mere survival. It became ritual, stability, something to be trusted. And in that return, we see the final piece of their story. Not just what they ate, but why they ate it, how it shaped them, not just as soldiers, but as men. The meals of the Roman army were more than rations. They were a mirror, reflecting the heart of empire, order, routine, control, in a world that often defied it. But food, simple, humble, repetitive, became the thread that stitched Rome together. From centurions in Spain to auxiliaries in Syria, they chewed the same bread, sipped the same sour wine, boiled the same beans, felt the same warmth of firelit meals after cold marches. And in that sameness there was unity, a rhythm of eating that moved with the legions, across rivers, over mountains, through deserts and forests and forgotten frontiers. It moved like Rome itself. But the story doesn't end here, because food changes, it evolves, it spreads, and the foods of the legion, those rations once born of need, would shape the diets, places they never meant to stay. Gaul, Britannia, Dacia, Judea, each land touched by Roman hands and Roman hunger. And long after the legions marched home, their meals remained transformed, blended, passed on, the quiet legacy of the soldier's bowl. And that, dear traveler, is where we'll wander next. For now, close your eyes. Let the sounds of fire and wind melt into soft night. Let the taste of ancient grains fade from your tongue and drift once more into stillness. The stillness holds, but beneath its quiet surface, the story moves like roots beneath the soil, invisible, yet always growing. Because Roman food did not vanish with the footsteps of the legions. No, it lingered, settled into the soil of every place Rome touched. The empire did not just conquer. It planted, it fed, and it changed the way people cooked, the way they ate, the way they thought about food itself. When Roman soldiers moved through Gaul, they brought more than arms. They brought oil, wine, salted fish from distant coasts, caharum, the sharp, fermented sauce that clung to every corner of Roman cuisine, strange, salty, made from the crushed remains of fish left to rest in the sun, then pressed, strained, bottled in clay. It was poured into stews, onto meats, into grain porridge, hutch of home. From the sea, the Gauls watched, tasted, adapted, and slowly their own flavors shifted, blended, became something in between. The heavy breads of the north softened with olive oil. Barley gave way to wheat, local herbs mixed with Roman vinegar, and over time, new kitchens were born, not Roman, not Gallic, but something else, something shared, something permanent. The same thing happened in Britannia, where cold winds blew through hills and stone, and Roman hearths burned in villas and camps. Soldiers stationed for years, sometimes decades, brought seeds, tools, habits. They cleared fields, built granaries, taught new planting cycles. They introduced beans, celery, and leeks. They dug irrigation channels, pressed oil, and all the while, they kept eating their soldiers' meals. And the locals noticed. They began growing Roman crops, boiling Roman grains, using Roman pots, at first for trade, then for taste. By the time the legions withdrew, their flavors had already sunk into the bones of the land. The Roman meal survived without the Roman, because food is stubborn. It stays. Even when the empire fades, you can still see it today in old recipes, in the shape of ovens buried under soil, in the seeds that traveled across oceans of time, and most of all, in the way food ties people together, across language, across belief, across borders, drawn and redrawn. Roman soldiers ate to survive, but what they carried with them became something more. It became culture, and within that culture we find something beautiful, a simple truth that a bowl of grain, a crust of bread, a handful of herb can reach across centuries and still feel familiar, still nourish, still comfort. But even then, even in their own time, Roman meals were not identical. There were differences. A soldier stationed in Syria might dine differently than one posted in Gaul, because Rome absorbed everything: spices from the east, dried dates, chickpeas, mint, sesame, coriander, and these flavors slipped quietly into the soldiers' stew, unnoticed by commanders. welcomed by tired hands, and slowly the army's meals reflected the size of the empire. They became maps made of taste and texture. A legionary in Egypt might eat lentils seasoned with cumin. A soldier in Thrace might add wild garlic to his poles. In Numidia, meat might be rubbed with crushed seeds or cooked with fruit. The uniformity of the legion was never fully reflected in the pot, because the pot was human, always subject to change, to chance, to a soldier's longing for home, or curiosity for something new. And that, too, was part of Rome. Its greatness was not in forcing others to forget, but in how it absorbed, blended, preserved, even in something as humble as a campfire meal. But the story lingers still, 'cause for all we've explored, the food, the tools, the hardships, the blending of cultures, we've yet to visit one final, quiet corner of this ancient kitchen. What of celebrations, of victory, of feasts? After battle, did the soldier ever taste joy in his rations? Did the meal ever become something more than fuel, something sacred, something shared in laughter, in music, beneath open stars? The dear traveler is where we'll drift next, but for now, let your mind soften. Feel the warm bowl resting in your lap. Smell the faint steam of herbs and grain, and listen to the quiet hum of distant voices, full from a long day. Calm, me, moshful, at peace. The voices hum low, full bellies, warmed limbs, the clink of bowls stacked gently, the soft hiss of embers curling into ash. In these quiet hours, after the march ends, after the camp is built, after food is shared, another kind of nourishment begins, the kind that doesn't fill the stomach, but eases the spirit. Because even among soldiers, men hardened by cold and distance, there were nights when the meal became more than routine, nights when victory came, when the enemy was pushed back, when the fortress surrendered, or perhaps when nothing was wrong at all, when the rain stopped, when the sun stayed a little longer, when someone received a letter from home. On those nights, something flickered beneath the iron, not just firelight, but joy. A different mood took hold of the camp, and slowly a feast would form, not lavish, not like the banquets of senators, no reclining couches, no silver trays, but still a feast, simple, earned, sacred in its own quiet way. They pooled what they had, a little more grain, the last of the lard, a pinch of salt kept hidden. Perhaps someone had dried fruit, dates, figs, moan, stored for a day, just like this. Another might bring wine, stronger than usual, shared carefully, one small cup at a time. They roasted meat, if they had any, or made thick porridge, richer than usual, sprinkled with herbs, or soaked in broth. They sat close, legs crossed, shoulders touching, no ranks, no orders, just men eating in silence or in stories, and sometimes someone sang low, off-key, but warm, a song from home, a chant passed down, the tune carrying across tents, through the trees, into the stars. The feast was short, but deep, because in that moment, the food was not survival, it was memory. Every bite held something else, a face, a season, a place no longer near. And somehow, that stew, or that cup of vinegar wine, or that stale crust of bread, it tasted like belonging, like being seen, like still being human, even in the dirt, even under armor, even so far from anything soft. They told stories then of other campaigns, other feasts. Someone would speak of Hispania, where the figs were larger and the rivers colder. Another would recall a cook in Alexandria who used cinnamon in meat stew, and how strange, how magical that tasted. Laughter would come, the kind that starts slow and grows, as if it too is hungry, not loud, but full, honest, warm. These moments, though rare, were remembered more than battles, more than victories, because they were moments where nothing was demanded, where no shield had to be lifted, no formation kept, no order obeyed, just food and fire and rest. In the glow of these nights, the Roman soldier was not a symbol, not a cog in the great machine of empire. He was a man with cracked hands and tired eyes who missed the olive groves, or the sea, or the laughter of a sister who closed his eyes while chewing, because it reminded him of home. And perhaps he wasn't alone in that, because across the empire, from distant outposts to bustling towns, others were eating too. Farmers, craftsmen, tribes, children, all bound by the same flavors, the same greens, the same salt. This was the hidden empire, not drawn on maps, but built in kitchens, in shared stews, in bread broken by hand. An empire sustained not just by power, but by food, and through that food, connection. But just as these feasts brought light, they also cast a gentle shadow, because the soldier always knew it wouldn't last. The next day, the road would call, the armor would be strapped on again, the pack repacked, and the fire extinguished. But even then, the taste of the night would linger, in the mind, in the bones, and in the rhythm of the next march. Step, step, dot, breathe, remember, 'cause food is memory, and memory is what carried them forward when the land turned cruel again. Now, as we drift gently back from the firelight, let's allow that warmth to follow us. Let it settle in your chest, soft and slow. Let the steam of the stew, the scent of scorched grain, the distant hum of a soldier's song fade into your breath, and let your eyes grow heavy as we prepare to follow this story to its quiet end. For there is one final path to walk, trail back toward the cities, to retirement, to what remained after the marching stopped, because even then, the soldier's food continued to shape the world around him. But for now, sleep, sleep beneath the stars he once marched under, with his pack beside you, and the taste of old bread still on your tongue. The fire has burned low again. Only a faint warmth lingers beneath the ash. A thin thread of smoke drifts upward, disappearing into the hush of night. Damp is gone now, the tents packed, the road behind them, and the soldier is no longer marching. Years have passed. The sword is rusting quietly in a corner. The shield leans against a crumbling wall, and the soldier is home. But something has changed. He does not walk the same way. He does not sleep through storms. And when he cooks, he does not cook as he once did. Because long after the battles faded, long after the last banner was folded away, the habits of campaign life remained. The small things, the way he gathered wood, the way he salted meat, the way he stirred grain slowly, always in the same direction. He still kept a pouch of vinegar tucked near the door, still soaked his bread before eating, still stirred crushed garlic into warm oil before adding it to beans. And now there were children watching, wives, neighbors, apprentices, people who had never marched, never seen the glint of javelin beneath Gallic rain, people who had never crossed the frozen Danube or cooked a stew over dung fire in the shadow of desert hills. But they watched, they asked, they tasted, and so it began again, the quiet passing of soldiers' food into civilian life, not by order, not by law, but by memory, by gesture, by routine, by the gentle rhythm of daily hunger across the Roman world. This happened again and again. Old soldiers settling down, taking up farms, opening taverns, tending gardens, and the foods they once ate to survive became foods they now prepare for love. Wheat cakes cooked on stones, now sweetened with honey. Lentil stew once made thin with water, now thickened with oil and herbs. The meal softened, warmed, they grew rounder, richer. They became family food, festival food. And in cities, Roman tastes began to spread like morning light. In Pompeii, bakers carved deep ovens. into stone walls, built counters with rows of terracotta jars called dolia, each filled with grains, pickled vegetables, and spiced sauces. The shops smelled of vinegar, of baked bread, of cured meats. Hung high to dry, you could hear the crackle of roasting chickpeas, the sizzle of oil on hot bronze, and behind each shop a story. Perhaps the owner was once a cook for a centurion, or a boy who served meals in a legionary camp, or a woman whose father marched with Caesar. Their recipes weren't written, but remembered, carried in the hands, in the way dough was folded, in how long a pot was left to simmer. Roman cuisine, if we can call it that, was never one thing. It was thousands of little things, put together slowly, gently, from one cook to another, soldier, farmer, mother, art, merchant. And as the empire changed, the food changed too. New flavors arrived from the east, from Africa, from distant isles. Pepper, dough, dates, cinnamon, dot, dried citrus peel, pickled fish paste in delicate jars. All these things found their way into homes, into markets, onto tables, and somehow still into the memories of old soldiers who once cooked over rough stones with nothing but grain and salt. Now they stood in courtyards, surrounded by olive trees, teaching children how to season lentils, how to sharpen a kitchen knife, how to bake bread on the back of a pan. Their battles long forgotten, but their food still alive. And beyond Rome, beyond Italy, in Gaul, in Hispania, in the misty green of Britannia, that legacy spread, not just through conquest, but through homes, through mouths, through meals. A Gallic farmer might season his stew with Roman herbs. A woman in North Africa might bake flatbreads in a Roman-style oven. In the shadow of Hadrian's wall, a boy might sip watered wine and dip crusts of bread into warm garlic oil, never knowing why, only knowing it tasted familiar. That is how memory works. Soft, persistent. Like the scent of smoke. In old cloth, the empire would fall. Eventually, the legions would scatter. The great roads crumble. The aqueducts dry. But the food remained in fragments, in echoes, in flavors passed down from pot to pot, generation to generation. And now, when we taste something simple, a lentil stew, a crust of salted bread, a sip of vinegared drink, we are tasting them. The men who marched, the ones who survived, the ones who fed each other under foreign skies. And maybe a part of them still walks with us, not in armor, but in aprons, in kitchens, in the way we stir and taste and share. A long, quiet thread stretching through time, unbroken, still warm. And now, dear listener, as you lie back and let your thoughts drift, know this: the stories we tell are not always about kings and empires and war. Sometimes they're about beans and barley and bitter grains. Sometimes the greatest legacy is a recipe passed hand to hand, heart to heart, across centuries of sleep. And maybe that's why you feel it now. The housey warmth in your chest, the slow curling of your thoughts, the heavy softness pulling at your limbs, because somewhere deep inside, your body remembers what it means to be fed, to be full, to be safe, to rest. And so, we close this chapter. The soldier sleeps, the pot is cool, the road is behind us, but the story, the taste, remains always. The story lingers, even though the march has ended, even though the soldier has set down his pack and the flames have cooled to silence. Still, it drifts, soft as dust, slow as sleep, because the food of the Roman soldier did more than survive. It transformed, it melted into the lands he once passed through and left behind. More than just footprints, it left patterns, habits, flavors, and somewhere in those ancient echoes, we begin to see something greater, something quieter than conquest, but no less powerful. Culture, not shouted, but stirred in pots and fires, and the hands that fed them. You see, food does not vanish with empire. It takes root. It adapts. It hides inside rituals, inside families. And that's where we now find ourselves. Not in camps, not in battles, but in kitchens, small, light, warm, but lit by morning light or by the last rays of the evening, and within them echoes of the legion, not always in recipes, but in instinct, in the way bread is scored, in the way porridge is salted, in the careful addition of herbs to slow cooked beans. Little gestures, little choices, so easy to overlook, but shaped centuries ago, because after the empire began to fade, the people remained, and so did their food, even as borders changed and languages shifted, and rulers rose and fell. The way they cooked stayed. You can trace it like a thread woven into the cloth of Europe, in the olive groves of southern France, where Roman techniques for pressing oil are still quietly used, in Spanish stews, where chickpeas and cumin linger in every mouthful, in British pies filled with barley and root vegetables, not so far from the soldier's grain and bean mash, and in Italy, of course, where the descendants of those meals became more refined, more celebrated, but never fully forgot. Their origin, even pulse, The soldier's humble porridge still echoes today in polenta, transformed but not erased. That is what legacy looks like, not in monuments, but in memories that can be tasted, and tasted again, each generation, adding a little more, changing it slightly, but never losing the rhythm. And the rhythm was set long ago by tired hands around a fire after long marches beneath strange stars. But now, let us follow a different path. Let us wander beyond the kitchens, beyond the homes, and into the fields. This to feed an army is to shape the land and roam with all its hunger, changed the very earth beneath its feet. The roads they built were not just for war. They were for wheat, for olive oil, for wine, for salt. The lifeblood of a marching army was not blood. It was grain, and so grain had to flow from Egypt, from Sicily, from the valleys of Gaul, entire regions redesigned to grow it, harvest it, ship it, store it. Grain silos were built, massive ones, shaped like beehives, cool inside, dry. They dotted the countryside, standing silent, waiting for need. And in coastal cities, granaries rose like temples to house the harvests that would one day feed soldiers far away. And every farmer, every hand that planted, was part of the army's chain, whether they knew it or not. Even in places untouched by battles, Rome's hunger reached them, because an empire does not march without its stomach, and so food became strategy. Farms near fort, mills near rivers, warehouses at crossroads, all designed with one quiet purpose: to keep the soldier fed. And this reshaped the world, because when the empire fell, those roads remained, those farms remained, those habits of supply and demand remained. And long after the banners were gone, the food systems Rome had built still whispered beneath the surface. Some became part of medieval Europe. Some slipped quietly into the traditions of monastery, where monks baked bread in Roman-style ovens and seasoned soup with Roman-grown herbs, not as conquerors, but as caretakers, keeping the fire alive. And in this way, the food of the legion became the food of the world, not through force, but through familiarity. Because once something feeds you, truly, it stays with you. And now, as we draw near the soft end of this story, we return to where we began, to a single soldier, alone, on the edge of a fire, cooking something simple: a few grains, cracked pot, a wooden spoon, turned smooth with time. He does not know that his meal will echo through thousands of years. He only knows he is hungry and tired, and this food will carry him through. But we know now, that at every stir of the pot, was a kind of beginning, that every bite was not just nourishment, but a seed that would one day bloom into kitchens and fields and tables far beyond his sight. You can still feel it, can't you? The warmth of grain on your tongue, the earthiness of lentils, the sting of vinegar tempered with oil, memory of being full even when the world was uncertain. This is how food becomes history, not written in stone, but tasted in silence, felt in the hand, passed down without fanfare. And now, as your eyes grow heavy and your breath grows slow, let that memory settle deep inside you, a memory older than empire, of fire, hot dog, of hunger and comfort, of the long, slow story of what it means to be human, to gather, to cook, to eat, to share, to survive, and to rest. At last, the past does not vanish. It lingers in quiet places, in scents, in textures, in the rustle of flour in a wooden bowl. The soldier is gone now. The empire has long since crumbled. But still, he is with us, not in armor, but in the kitchen, in the way we slice bread, in how we salt our soup, in the silent decisions we make to nourish, to comfort, to carry on. There's something almost sacred in the act of preparing food. It slows the world, brings our hands into rhythm, and invites us to listen to memories not our own, to histories we've never lived, but somehow still carry. Perhaps this is where the Roman meal truly lives on, not just in taste, but in instinct, in the body's quiet understanding of what food means. Even now, thousands of years later, we reach for the same warmth after hardship, after work, after silence. We stir, we wait, we taste, just as they did. A modern kitchen with tiles and clocks and steel still echoes the rhythm of ancient hands. And though we no longer sleep beneath the stars of Germania or the deserts of Syria, we still eat with that same yearning for strength, for connection, for peace. Perhaps you felt it, that moment when the meal is simple, unadorned. A bowl of beans, a heel of bread, a drizzle of oil, and somehow, it's enough. It wraps around the hunger. It softens the heart, and something very old awakens, not in thought, but in being. The Roman soldier ate with discipline, but also with humility. Gus said he knew that the grain in his pouch wasn't guaranteed. He respected the food as fuel, as ritual, as company, and that reverence still survives. We see it in the quiet before meals, in the way families wait for each other to sit, in the hush of kitchens, early in the morning, in the crumbling pages of old handwritten cookbooks, passed down, smudged with oil, marked with love, because food doesn't forget. It remembers us, even when we forget it. And in every grain of salt, there is time, carried across oceans, across fields, across memory. Let us go back now, one more time, to that soldier. He is old now. His hands are slow, but still, he cooks. He sits beside a garden he's tended for years. Time grows thick around the edges. Mint spills over clay pots. Garlic nods in the sun. And inside his kitchen, cool, shaded, a pot rests on a low flame, the same pot he once carried on a 1,000-mile march. It's chipped now, worn thin, but it holds flavor, memory, thought, silence. He stirs, he tastes, he sits, and as the steam rises, he remembers. Not battles, not names, not dates, but the feeling of being full after being empty, the peace of warmth after cold, the steadiness of repetition, and that is where the Roman meal ends. Not in history, but in presence, in sitting down, in feeding each other, in listening, in slowing, in closing the eyes and resting. Let that be your story now. You've walked with the soldier. You've tasted his world. You've followed the grain from Campi to countryside to city to now. Up, and as you settle deeper into your pillow, as the weight of sleep pulls gently at your limbs, know this: the story was never about food. Not really. It was about care, about rhythm, about the human thread ties us together through time. And though the pot may change, the hunger remains the same, and so does the healing. And now, let your breath slow. Let your thoughts dissolve like salt in warm broth. There is nothing more to chase, nothing to carry, nothing to fear. Just the faint scent of grain, the softness of oil, the memory of fire, and sleep like a blanket, waiting, ready. Let it come, May. Let it carry you into stillness, into warmth, into the long, slow dream of history. The sun lowers itself gently behind a soft ridge of hills. The shadows stretch, not menacing, but calm, like a long exhale. The day quiets, and somewhere in a small stone house, a pot begins to bubble. The meal is not grand. It never was. Just barley, onions, handful of lentils, and a drizzle of sharp oil. But it is enough. It has always been enough, because in this place, food is not about wealth, not about show, not even about variety. It is about rhythm, about return, about remembrance. And as the steam curls upward, carrying the faint scent of time and smoke, we feel the past settling in around us once more. You see, even when we stop speaking of Rome, even when we close the books and let the names fade, the echo remains, not in marble ruins, not in weathered coins, but in this, the meal made at the end of a long day, because long ago, on a march somewhere, between dust and distance, a soldier stirred something very similar. Perhaps not with thyme, perhaps not with clay bowls, but with the same intent, to nourish, to calm, to hold life steady for one more night. And this is where we end, not with the rise or fall of empire, but with the softness of continuation. The Roman meal did not stay Roman. It could not, because food is not loyal to flags or borders. It is loyal to need, to hunger, to the deep, slow desire to feel safe again. And so it traveled beyond Rome, beyond legions, beyond maps. It seeped into other cultures, other stories, other mouths, but the feeling stayed the same. That first bite after the long walk, the warm broth after bitter cold, that dry bread softened in oil and made sacred by silence. Even now, you might feel it deep in your chest, that soft comfort that comes not from fullness, but from the care it took to be fed. That's what the soldier carried, more than weapons, more than orders. He carried memory, he carried taste, and taste, as we've learned, does not age. It waits in recipes, half remembered, in flavors that feel strangely familiar, in the shape of pots you've never seen before, in the urge to stir, clockwise, slowly, as if time itself depended on it. So now, as we draw close to the edge of sleep, let's visit one last meal, not on a battlefield, not in a camp, but that has no name, just a small clearing, a fire, a man, and a pot. He stirs slowly. The light is low. Birds have quieted, and there is peace. He does not speak. No one does. But the meal speaks for him. It speaks of the road, of lost comrades, of nights spent in mud and mornings in frost, but also of laughter, of shared bread, of unexpected joy in the middle of nowhere. He eats, and the world settles, not because it is perfect, not because it is fair, but because something warm fills the space inside him where cold once lived. And isn't that the greatest magic of all? That something as small as lentils and grain can do what swords could not. They bring peace, not to the world, but to the body, to the breath, to the heart. You now carry that peace too. You have walked this long road of memory and meal. You have sat with the soldier, stirred his pot, listened to the wind curl around his camp, and now you lie still, wrapped in your own quiet. Let it hold you. Let the story melt into your bones. There is no need to remember every word. The body remembers for you. The warmth, the rhythm, the feeling of being fed in a world that often forgets to feed us. Let your breath move like boiling water, steady, gentle, fading into steam. Let your thoughts scatter like dried herbs on stone. Let your limbs grow heavy as pots cooling by the fire. There is no more march, no more pack to carry, no more road to walk. Just the meal, the moment, the memory, the end of a very old story, still alive in your quiet breath. Sleep now, you've earned it. Some stories never truly end. They don't close, they don't fade, they simply settle like the last bit of flour at the bottom of a cloth sack, like the warmth that lingers in a bowl long after the soup is gone. That's where we are now, in the silence, after the meal, in the stillness, after the road. But even here, quiet as it is, the echo continues. A breath, a scent, a faint memory of grain and smoke, not in history books, not in museums, but in the body, in the gestures, in the very act of feeding oneself. You see, to eat, to nourish, is to remember, even when you don't mean to, even when you're simply hungry at the end of a long day, because the way you hold a spoon, the way you salt your food, the way your tongue recognizes something right, all of it comes from somewhere, somewhere old, somewhere dusty, somewhere under layers and layers of time. The Roman soldier didn't write these things down, but he didn't need to. He taught with motion, with repetition, with fire and water and waiting, and the lessons endured. Think of the way a grandmother taps twice on the pot lid before lifting it, the way an old man tastes the broth with the back of the spoon. These are not inventions. They are echoes, passed quietly, unnoticed, but unforgettable. The same way soldiers once soaked their bread in watered vinegar, not because it was tradition, but because it worked, because it made sense, because the body responded with ease, and the body remembers what the mind forgets. Even now, as you listen, drowsy, still, you are part of that chain, You, too, are a traveler, not with sandals or spears, but with habits, with choices. You carry the salt from ancient shores, the grain from forgotten fields, the oil pressed by hands that have long turned to dust, and every meal you prepare, however small, is a conversation with the past. You don't need to speak, just stir, just slice, just wait until the scent rises. And in that moment, you're not alone. You are surrounded, not by armies, but by generations. Farmers, mothers, cooks, soldiers, all of them in your hands, whispering, not in word, but in movement, in rhythm. So when you season your stew, you remember. When you scrape the last of the bread, you remember. When you pause just before the first bite, you remember, even if you don't know why. 'Cause food, more than any story, holds the shape of those who came before, not as names, but as flavor, as weight, as warmth. And so, tonight, as we close our eyes and drift into sleep, we do so in gratitude, not for kings, not for victories, but for the quiet survival of sustenance, the meals that kept bodies upright, that softened fear, that brought warmth to stone walls and forest camps and lonely watchtowers, simple meals cooked in battered pots, eaten with tired hands, and still they live, not as recipes, but as presence, a presence you now carry into your rest. Let that thought settle like steam curling from an empty bowl. There is no need to hold it tightly. Let it drift, let it dissolve, let it become part of your breath. There is comfort here in knowing you are never truly alone. When you eat, you are joined by hands unseen, by fires long extinguished, by lives lived in quiet resilience. So breathe and know the road is long, but food has always waited at its end. A meal, pause, a peace. Let it come. Let the silence wrap itself around you like a blanket, like the warmth of soup held close to the chest. You are safe. You are full. You are part of something older than memory. And now you may rest, sleep gently, dear traveler of time. The fire has faded, the spoon rests, the body is quiet, but the story still simmers in you. The meal is finished, the fire has faded, and still the warmth remains, not on the skin, but somewhere deeper, inside the breath, inside the chest, inside a quiet place you rarely notice, but always carry. That is where the story now lives, no longer in pots and bowls, but in rhythm, in memory, in a slow, spiraling hush that comes after a long journey, because every road must end and every meal must cool. But endings are not always loss. Sometimes they're a return, a soft returning to something ancient and essential. You see, the Roman soldier's meal was never just about food. It was about presence and patience and the moment that followed. Each long day, a moment without noise, without fear, without command, just warmth and quiet and the rhythm of chewing, simple, human, sacred. It is here, in this space, that you find the essence of every soldier. Whoever sat alone with a bowl of hot mash and the wind at his back, they didn't ask for much. They didn't need to, because one bowl of grain, one splash of sour wine, one shared loaf was enough to live, enough to endure, enough to pass the memory forward. And now you carry it. You may not march, you may not wear armor, but you remember in ways you cannot explain, in the foods that calm you, in the textures you crave, in the stillness you seek. When the world grows too loud, you carry the soldier's silence. You carry the soldier's wisdom, not shouted, but stirred, the same way barley stirred into boiling water, the same way time is stirred into sleep, slowly, softly, not without resistance, because nourishment was never about taste. It was about rhythm. It was about knowing that even in chaos there could be this quiet certainty, a meal, a pause, a breath. So let yourself breathe. You've wandered long through history, through hunger, through the long corridors of memory and meaning, and now you may rest. Feel the way your body softens like dough left to rise. Feel the weight of your limbs like stones warming by a fire. Feel the quiet in your chest like a pot once bubbling. Now still, that is your reward. Not glory, not triumph, but stillness, because in that stillness everything is held. The soldier, the road, the meal, the memory, all folded together like a warm cloth around bread. You do not need to remember each fact. You do not need to recite names. The story is not in the knowing, it is in the feeling, and you have felt it deeply. Let that be enough. Let it lull you like the sound of water over worn stones, like the scent of herbs on a slow evening wind. Let your thoughts loosen, let your breath lengthen, let your body remember what stillness feels like. And in that stillness, hear it, the distant sound of bread breaking, the soft scrape of spoon on clay, the hush of firelight against an old soldier's face, He is not looking at you. He doesn't know you're there. But still, you are with him, sharing the silence, sharing the warmth, not sharing the unspoken knowing that this moment matters. Not because it is grand, but because it is real. Let that truth settle in you like grain settles in broth. Let it thicken. Let it hold you. Let it carry you toward the dark, gentle edge of sleep. There is no more story to chase, no more fact to hold. Only this, the comfort of something old, and the peace of being full. You may rest now. The meal is done. The world is quiet. And you are safe. Sleep softly, keeper of forgotten kitchens. Sleeper in the long light of memory. You have tasted the past. Now let it fade into your dreams. The bowl is empty. The fire is low. The breath is slow. And the story has become you. The fire is long gone now. The pot empty. The spoon resting. But something lingers. Not the heat, not the taste, but the rhythm of a hand stirring, a bowl passed, a silence shared. It remains, even when the march ends, even when the soldier disappears into myth, even when the empire itself turns to dust. It remains in kitchens you've never seen, in gestures you don't remember, learning in the quiet hum of hunger that comes not from the stomach, but from the soul. Because to eat is not only to survive, is to remember that we are still here, that the thread has not broken, that something carried us through flame, through frost, through time. Now, the same time, the Roman soldier never meant to teach, but he did, in the way he wrapped grain in oil-damp cloth, in how he tucked dried figs into corners of his satchel, in the still, wordless gratitude he felt after a warm swallow. He taught endurance, not loud, but steady. He taught silence, not empty, but full. He taught a kind of peace that comes only after everything else is gone. And tonight, in this space between waking and sleep, you are his student. No armor, no sandals, no spear, only a quiet mind, a soft breath, a body waiting to rest. And that is enough, because he too once sat in the dimming light with calloused hands and let the weight of the day slide off his shoulders. He too watched the shadows settle across the camp. He too felt the comfort of something warm in an uncertain world. And that comfort did not stay with him. It traveled like smoke, like story, like a recipe passed without words. And now it finds you. Let it wrap around you like a cloak woven from time. Let the grain of memory soften inside you. Let the oil of centuries coat the weary parts of your day. This is not fantasy. This is not invention. This is the inheritance of those who once sat where you now lie, not in the same room, not on the same earth, but in the same human silence, a silence of rest, a silence of digestion, a silence of knowing that just for now, all is still. That is the secret the Roman soldier left behind, not in books, not in statues, but in the meal itself, the ritual of it, the rhythm of it, the breath between spoonfuls. That is what survives, and in your sleep, you carry it forward. You join a line older than empire, older than maps, older than war, a line of people who sat down and ate it and survived, not with might, but with meaning, not with glory, but with grace. So gnaw as your breath slows, as your body yields. Let that grace hold you. Let it wash over your mind like warm water over tired skin. You've walked long tonight, through fields, through ruins, through time, and now you have arrived. There is no more road, no more march. Only this moment, the silence, the breath, the memory. Let it be enough. No need to question, no need to understand. Only feel, only drift, only rest. The bowl is washed, the fire is cold, the earth turns, and you remain soft, whole. Still, you are not lost, you are not alone, you are part of a rhythm that began before language and will continue long after sound. Sleep now, gentle traveler. Let the soldier's silence become your own. Yeah, let the grain of time settle in your dreams. Let the oil of memory soothe what aches. Let the warmth of the past become the bed beneath you. There is nothing more to seek, nothing more to say, only stillness, only warmth, only sleep. The journey is complete, but the rhythm continues, and in that rhythm you will find peace. The night has folded softly over the world, its quiet darkness like a gentle blanket laid across the shoulders of all who wander. Somewhere, far away, a fire crackles low. Its amber glow casts slow-moving shadows on stone walls and worn wooden tables. Hot simmers gently, filled with grain and herbs. The scent drifts quietly through the cool air, tugging memories from sleep. The meal is simple, unpretentious. Yet it holds something deeper, something beyond flavor. It is a ritual, a ceremony of survival, a slow, steady pulse beating beneath the noise of marching feet and clashing swords. The Roman soldier, long gone, lived by this pulse. It was his anchor in the wilderness, on the road, under the endless sky, when hunger bit sharp, when fear pressed close. This ritual steadied him, the breaking of bread, the sipping of warm broth, the soft grounding weight of grain in his belly. It was more than fuel. It was calm. It was connection. It was life, and it traveled far, across deserts and forests, over mountains and rivers, carried not just in packs, but in the quiet spaces, between breaths, in the steady movements, a hands peeling roots, in the cautious selection of berries and leaves, in the knowing glance shared between comrades before the first bite, a silent promise. We endure, we survive, we carry on. The story of food is the story of us, of all who have walked this earth before, who found a way to turn hunger into hope, to turn scarcity into ritual, to turn the ordinary into sacred. And though centuries have passed since those marches, the echo remains. In kitchens now modern and bright, in markets bustling with color, in the quiet moments when you prepare your own meal, that ancient pulse still beats, a reminder of the long line of hands that shaped it, the soldiers who paused to eat under starlit skies, the farmers who sowed grain with tired fingers, the mothers who fed children by candlelight, all woven into the fabric of what we call life. So as you lie here now, ready to drift away, feel the rhythm, the slow, gentle thrum of centuries past. Let it carry you, let it soothe you, like warm water on cold skin, like soft wool against weary bones. Let it be the lullaby that you into dreams, because in dreams time bends, past and present fold together, and you can taste the bread of a Roman campfire, feel the warmth of a shared meal, hear the quiet voices beneath the stars. This is your inheritance, handed down through centuries, not in gold or glory, but in grain and oil, not in conquest, but in care. So rest now, sleep softly. You are held by history, by memory, by the gentle hands of those who came before. And when you wake, the world will still turn, the fires will still burn, and the meal will wait, ready to comfort, ready to nourish, ready to remind that you are part of something vast and unending, something gentle, something strong, something eternal. Good night, gentle traveler. Sleep well. The night is deepening, folding softly around you. Outside, the gentle rustle of leaves whispers stories older than time. The stars glimmer faintly like distant fires flickering across the vast sky. In this quiet moment, we return again to the world of the Roman soldier, not as a figure of war, but as a keeper of something more enduring, a ritual, a rhythm, a way of being that moves slowly through the ages, carried not in swords, but in bowls. Picture the soft sound of barley simmering in a pot, the faint scent of herbs rising with the steam, the feel of rough bread, its edges worn and soft, breaking gently in tired hands. These are not just foods, they are memories, whispers of ancient fields, long plowed and sown, echoes of hands, both strong and gentle, that tended crops and kindled fires. The Roman soldier ate not for pleasure, but for survival, for strength to march, for clarity of mind, for the endurance to face another day. Yet within this necessity there was care, quiet care, a moment of pause amidst the chaos of campaigns, the breaking of bread, the sharing of a simple meal was a sacred act, a reminder that even in hardship there was connection between body and earth, between comrades, between past and present. The foods themselves, grain, olives, dried fruits, salted meat, carried stories of lands far from home, of fields bathed in sun, of ancient trade routes winding across continents. To eat was to hold the world in one's hands, to feel the weight of history in every bite. And though the world has changed, those stories still live in the recipes passed down through generations, in the rituals of the kitchen where flame and pot meet hands and heart, in the quiet moments before a meal, when the day's noise fades and only the scent of food remains. This is the legacy of the Roman soldier's meal. Not just what was eaten, but how the simple act of nourishment became a bridge between survival and solace, between hunger and hope, between the past and the soft edge of sleep. So, as you lie here now, ready to drift away, feel the pulse of that ancient rhythm. Let it slow your breath. Let it soften your thoughts. Let it carry you gently into the realm of dreams. For in dreams, we walk with those who came before. We share their meals. We hear their silent stories. And we find peace. Peace in the knowing that we are not alone. That the thread of humanity weaves through time, unbroken and unyielding. And when the morning comes, you will wake refreshed, carrying the quiet strength of countless meals shared beneath open skies, beneath stars, beneath history, beneath time itself. Sleep now. The journey continues. The night's hush settles around you like a soft shawl wrapped gently. The world feels distant now, quieted and slowed. Somewhere in the depths of time, a campfire crackles faintly. Its glow reaches across centuries, touching a place within you, a place shaped by countless meals shared. Beneath open skies and within stone-walled kitchens, the Roman soldier's journey was long, marked by marches, by battles, by the steady rhythm of hunger and hope. But more than that, it was marked by the sacred pause. That comes when food is broken, the breaking of bread, the dipping of bread in wine, the tasting of simple stew. These moments were not just about filling the belly, they were about grounding the spirit, about quieting the mind, about finding a fragile peace amid the uncertainty of war. Imagine the softness of warm grain settling in the stomach, the faint bitterness of herbs lingering on the tongue, the rough texture of bread, the sharp tang of salted meat, the faint sweetness of dried fruit. All these flavors carried stories of land and labor, of seasons past, of hands that planted and harvested. To eat was to connect to the earth, to one's comrades, to a history too vast to hold in words. And though time has stretched long since then, that connection remains. It lives in the quiet moments you spend preparing your own meals, in the scent of fresh bread baking, in the crackle of firewood, in the slow stirring of a pot. These are echoes, soft whispers from the past. They remind you that you belong to something greater, a chain of care and endurance that has spanned millennia. So now, as your breath grows slower, as your body relaxes, let yourself sink deeper into the stillness, into the warmth, into the memory. You are held by the touch of ancient hands, by the hum of old fires, by the taste of simple meals shared in shadowed camps. There is peace here, a peace that comes not from triumph, but from survival, from quiet resilience, from the gentle knowing that no matter the road, there will always be a meal, a moment, a breath, to nourish the body and calm the mind, to remind us we are never truly alone. Past is with us, always, and now. As your eyes close, feel the slow pulse of history beat within you, soft, steady, endless. Sleep now, gentle traveler. You are part of a story written in grain and flame, a story that goes on quietly, endlessly, with you. The soft cloak of night wraps itself gently around the world. A quiet calm settles deep into the air, slowing every breath, softening every thought. Far away, a faint glow flickers, a campfire, ancient and enduring, carrying warmth across time. Imagine the slow stirring of a pot, grains swelling in simmering water, the faint scent of herbs rising, mixing with the cool night air. In that moment, there is more than food. There is a ritual, a quiet ceremony of survival and solace. The Roman soldier, weary and worn, found comfort in these small acts, breaking bread with steady hands, sipping sour wine, feeling the warmth of a simple meal amidst a world unsettled. The rough textures, the subtle flavors, salted meat, dried fruit, bitter herbs, each carried stories, not just of the land, but of endurance and hope. These meals were more than sustenance. They were connections to the earth, to comrades, to a long line of humanity stretching far beyond the reaches of empire. Even now, those connections linger in kitchens bathed in morning light, in the quiet moments before a meal, in the gentle sounds of food being prepared. You carry these echoes within you, in the way your hands move, in the rhythm of your breath, in the calm that follows nourishment. Let yourself sink into this moment. Feel the weight of history softly pressing around you, a warm, steady presence. There is peace here, not in loud triumphs, but in the quiet survival of those who came before. A peace born of resilience, of meals shared in shadow and flame, of hands that labored, of spirits that endured. Let the rhythm of that ancient meal slow your breath, ease your thoughts, carry you gently towards rest. The past is alive, whispering softly, waiting patiently in the spaces between waking and sleep. So now, close your eyes. Let the warmth of those distant fires wrap around you like a blanket. Breathe in the memory of grain and oil. Feel the soft pulse of time beneath your skin. You are part of this story, not as a fleeting shadow, but as a steady flame carried forward on the quiet winds of history. Sleep now, gentle traveler. The journey continues, softly, endlessly. With you, the world outside has softened. The edges blur, sounds grow distant, like whispers carried on a gentle breeze. Imagine now a quiet camp, set deep beneath endless stars. The fire burns low, casting flickering shadows that dance softly on rough stone. The air smells faintly of smoke, mixed with the earthy scent of simmering grain. A soldier sits, still, his hands cradle a simple bowl, warm and worn from countless journeys. The meal is humble, but it holds weight, not of gold or glory, but of sustenance, of ritual, of a connection older than time itself. Every bite is slow, deliberate, each swallow a pause, a breath held between moments of stillness. The food is rough, hard bread, salted meat, dried figs, pressed sweet and dense. Yet, in its simplicity, there is comfort, a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, there is care, there is presence, there is life. The soldier's meal is a quiet act of defiance against chaos, knowing that despite storms of war, hunger, and fear, there is a moment that belongs only to him, a moment held safe by the flickering light, by the slow stirring of his breath, by the soft rustle of night. And this moment, though fleeting, weaves itself into the fabric of memory and meaning. It travels across time to reach you now, inviting you to share in its stillness. Feel the gentle weight of the bowl. Hear the muted clink of spoon on clay. Taste the subtle blend of grain and oil carried through centuries by hands long gone. These are more than just sensations. They are whispers from the past, echoes of resilience, of quiet strength, of survival, shaped not by might, but by steady presence. As you lie here now, ready to drift deeper into rest, let these whispers settle. Let them soften the edges of your thoughts. Let them cradle your breath, rock your mind, and guide you gently into the embrace of sleep. For in sleep, the boundaries dissolve, past and present mingle. Stories become dreams, and you become part of something greater. A long line of travelers who carried their meals, their memories, their moments of peace through the ages. So breathe slowly. Feel the night around you. Know that you are held by history, by memory, by the unbroken chain of human care. And as your eyes close, let the soldier's quiet meal become your own. Let it nourish you. Let it rest within you until morning light breaks, soft and gentle, and the world awakens anew. Sleep well, gentle traveler. The night stretches wide and deep, soft and endless, like a river of velvet. The quiet hum of the world slows, a lullaby whispered by stars and shadows. In the distance, a faint fire flickers, its amber glow steady, calm. Imagine yourself there, among the soft murmurs of night, in a camp settled beneath a vast, ancient sky. The air is cool and carries the scent of earth, wood smoke, and simmering grain. A soldier sits alone, his breath slow and steady, his hands holding a simple bowl. Within it lies a meal, not of extravagance, but of survival, ritual, and quiet grace. Barley softened by time and fire, oil that glistens faintly, and the subtle sweetness of dried figs. Each bite is taken with care, not hurried, but deliberate, a meditation on the sustenance that carries him forward. This meal is a sanctuary, a moment carved out of chaos, a space where hunger and fear soften into calm and presence. The rough textures, the muted flavors speak of earth and toil, of hands that sowed and reaped, harvest tended, and stories shared. It is a meal steeped in history, not just in taste, but in meaning. As you lie here now, ready to drift deeper into the quiet, let the memory of that meal wash over you like gentle rain. Let it soothe your mind, soften your thoughts, and ease your breath. You carry within you the echo of those ancient dinners, the pulse of countless meals shared beneath starlit skies and whispered winds. These echoes weave through time, binding you to a long line of travelers, those who found comfort in grain and oil, who held fast to ritual amidst uncertainty, who, like you, sought peace in the simple act of nourishment. Breathe in that connection. Feel the steady beat of history pulsing through your veins. Know that you are not alone, that the rhythm of survival, of quiet resilience flows through you now. And as your eyes grow heavy, as your body softens, let the warmth of those distant fires carry you gently into the embrace of sleep. There, in the quiet dark, you will find rest. Rest not just for the body, but for the spirit. For in sleep, the stories become dreams, and dreams become part of the endless rhythm that moves quietly through time. Sleep now, gentle traveler. You are part of a story, older than empires, deeper than rivers, wider than the sky. A story of survival, of ritual, of human connection. And it continues softly, endlessly. With you, the quiet night holds you gently now, as if cradling a fragile flame. The world softens around the edges, breathing slow, steady, calm. Imagine the faint glow of a distant campfire, its light flickering softly on ancient stones. The air is cool, touched with the scent of earth and smoke, mixed with the subtle aroma of simmering grains. Somewhere near, a soldier sits quietly, his hands warmed by a simple bowl. The meal inside is humble and unadorned, yet it carries the weight of countless journeys, the slow march of history, the steady pulse of survival. Barley softened over the fire, oil glistening faintly like morning dew, dried figs pressed tight with sweetness, and salted meat, all coming together in a quiet dance of flavors and memories. Each bite is taken with reverence, a sacred act in the midst of chaos, a moment to claim peace amid uncertainty. The food is not merely fuel, but a thread connecting past to present, binding the soldier to his comrades, to the earth beneath his feet, to a lineage that stretches back beyond memory. There is a rhythm here, the rhythm of breaking bread, of sharing what little there is, of finding calm in the flickering firelight. These moments, fleeting though they may be, weave themselves into the fabric of being. They become the silent hymns of endurance, the whispered prayers of resilience, the quiet songs of human connection. And now, as you lie here, ready to surrender to sleep, let yourself feel this rhythm. Let it slow your breath. soften your thoughts and ease your body. You carry within you the echoes of those ancient meals, taste of grain and oil, the warmth of shared moments, the gentle strength of survival. Breathe deeply and let these echoes wrap around you like a soft, warm cloak. Feel the steady pulse of history beneath your skin, the unbroken chain of care and presence flowing through time. Through you, there is peace here, a peace born not of conquest or glory, but of quiet endurance, of simple acts carried out with care. And as your eyelids grow heavy and your body sinks deeper into rest, know that you are part of something vast and timeless, a story told not in loud voices, but in the gentle passing of bowls, the slow breaking of bread, the shared warmth of a fire. Sleep now, gentle traveler. Let the rhythm carry you. Let the silence hold you. Let the past and present mingle in your dreams. And know when you wake that you carry this story within you.